Jefferson County Court at law number 2 is back in session. Court is in session with our trial case today, which is cause number 324-644. Case is styled the state of Texas versus Colton Ray Goodman. Let the record reflect that Colton Ray Goodman is present in court with his attorney David Grove. Let the record also reflect that the state is present with its assistant district attorneys, attorney Raymond Shearer and attorney Lamar Johnson. State, are you ready?
State's ready, Your
Honor. Defense, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Let the record reflect that the jury is not present in the courtroom. Mr. Bailiff, would you please get the jury? Mr. Grove? Everyone may be seated. Let the record reflect that the jury is now present in the courtroom. State, are you ready?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Defense, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson, would you please read the information, and Mr. Goodman, would you please stand?
Thank you, Your Honor. Call number 324-644, the state of Texas versus Colton Ray Goodman. Misdemeanor charge, terroristic threat, family violence. The information reads, in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, comes now the undersigned assistant criminal district attorney of Jefferson County, Texas, on behalf of the state of Texas, and presents in and to the county court at law of Jefferson County, Texas, and in Jefferson County, Texas, Colton Ray Goodman, hereafter styled the defendant, heretofore on or about October 12, 2019, did then and there unlawfully and with the intent to place Charles David Morris Jr., hereafter styled the complainant, in fear of imminent serious bodily injury, threatened to commit an offense involving violence to the complainant, namely assault by threatening the complainant with a machete. At the time of the commission of the offense, the defendant and the complainant were members of the same family, against the peace and dignity of the state.
Mr. Goodman, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Okay, you may be seated. Mr. Johnson, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed. You come to the podium.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I please the court?
Yes, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, and I'm glad to see everyone made it back to the courthouse safely. Again, my name is Lamar Johnson. It is my pleasure to represent the state of Texas and to serve as prosecutor in a very important case. This is a case about a man who can't control his alcohol or his anger. We believe that the evidence will show that on October 12th, 2019, the defendant in this matter, Colton Ray Goodman, walked through the front door of his home where his wife was, where his stepson was, and where his stepson's wife was, and waved a machete at his son initially, after a night of drinking. It was wee hours of the morning, and we believe the evidence will show that he made terroristic threats to all members of his family with a machete. We intend to call 3 witnesses. The 3 witnesses who were present that morning or night, and one of the witnesses is his stepson, Charles Morris, and we believe that Charles' testimony will be that he was asleep and he heard the door come open, and got up to the left, and he saw his stepfather, drunk and in front of him waving a machete, threatening his life. We also intend to call Emily Smith, which is his wife, who was laying on the couch with Mr. Charles Morris, the stepson, and who woke up after she heard and felt the movement of her husband reacting to someone standing in front of him with a machete. And we believe he will testify about how he felt at that time, about his relationship with his stepfather, and about how he thinks it made his family different. And finally, we intend to call the defendant's wife, Ms. Pearlie Goodman, who will testify about what she heard from the other room when the first two witnesses screamed after hearing the defendant come in and seeing him waving a machete. We believe after all the evidence is in, that this won't be a hard case for you to find that we have proved that beyond a reasonable doubt, Mr. Goodman made terroristic threats towards members of his family. It's a fairly short opening, and I believe this will be a very important case, but a straightforward one once presented with it, once you guys are presented with the evidence. And I look forward to putting on the evidence first. Thank you.
Mr. Crowe, would you like to make an opening statement or like to reserve?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed.
May it please the court.
You may proceed.
I'm not going to spend very much time because now is not the time when the defense would be putting on its evidence if we have any evidence. The law doesn't require us to put on any evidence, but we can't put on any evidence until after the prosecution rests their case. That's the way the procedure goes. Now, based on what the prosecutor said, this is going to be one of those cases where you're going to have to look at the witnesses as they testify. They look like they're telling the truth. Does it sound believable? Now, certainly, I'd also say that it doesn't, the case should not go to the side that has the most witnesses, because they've already told you they've got 3 witnesses. We may not have any witnesses, but at most, I would imagine it would only be Mr. Goodman. But look at the witnesses. Look at the way they testify. Look at their background. Look at why they may be saying what they say if it doesn't make sense. And then determine what you want to believe. I'm older than anyone else on this jury panel. I know that. But there was a guy that used to come on the radio named Paul Harvey. Some of y'all may have heard about him, some of the older ones. I mean, I'm sure the younger ones have not, maybe. But and he was, he had a show called The Rest of the Story. And he'd come on and he'd tell something, just about a fact situation. And then he'd have a commercial and come back and tell the rest of the story. And whatever happened when he got to the rest of the story, it changed completely what I thought was going to happen. It's one of those things that if you would have made up your mind before you had the commercial, it would have sounded one way. But then when he adds the additional facts, in this case from an additional witness, it changed the impression that I would have. And that's the way you're gonna have to do in this case, because we always go second. Wait till you hear the whole story before you make up your mind. Because sometimes people may get up and they may say something that's very credible or believable. But sometimes you gotta look at the whole situation, and then maybe it's not quite as open and shut as that first person would have said. So again, I'd say, keep in mind what Paul Harvey said. Wait till you hear the rest of the story, and don't make up your mind until you've heard all the evidence. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you in this case.
Mr. Johnson, you can call your first witness.
They call for,
Mr. No, I was gonna say, when he comes in, you could turn the podium toward the witness stand. Mr. Morris, would you come forward? Would you come forward on this side? Would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Morris, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Morris, you may take the witness stand, and the bailiff is going to adjust the mic right over here. Mr. Johnson, you may proceed.
Charles Morris.
Mr. Morris, where do you work?
I'm on,
Can you tell me about your education?
I got a 10th grade though.
And on October 12th, 2019, were you involved in a disturbance or an altercation with the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Where did that happen?
At my mom's house, 3990 Cleveland Street.
You said 3992?
Yes, sir.
And that was, and is that in Jefferson County?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What's your relationship with the defendant?
My mom was married to him.
At the time of the disturbance?
Yes, sir.
What was your relationship with him? What would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Morrison?
We didn't get along.
Well, I mean, as far as was there any familial ties, and were your family with the defendant?
I wouldn't say family. He was married to my mom.
Okay, and y'all were living in the same house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during the altercation with the defendant, can you tell me what happened?
Me and my girlfriend, we was watching TV and we fell asleep watching movies. And probably by 2, 3 o'clock that morning, I heard the front door open and I can see outside where it was left open. So see somebody standing in the doorway, I clicked the light on. And when I clicked the light on, he was standing up there with his hands behind his back. And then when the light came on, I see a machete. He's walking towards me, shaking the machete, telling me to get out of his house. My girlfriend, she wakes up and gets to screaming, jump between us and get to screaming my mom's name. And my mom wakes up and she jumped between us also. And, after that, you know, I guess he calmed down and went to his room, closed the door, so my girlfriend, she was, like, you need to call the police. I say, well, yeah, maybe you're right. So I called the police. Police came. They made us go outside on the front porch while they go, just talk with him. And I can hear them asking him to come out. He wouldn't come out the room. So I guess they kicked the door in, and you can hear a whole bunch of commotion back there, and they handcuffed him and brought him out.
And the him, do you see that person here in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Would you point at him and identify an article of clothing you had on?
Brown shirt.
Please let the record reflect that Mr. Moore has identified the defendant in this case.
The record will so reflect.
And how long has your mom been married to?
Probably 20 years.
And you were with her those entire 20 years. So have you known him?
Well, you know, I happen to get a girlfriend here and there, move in with them, and then I'll come back home, find another girlfriend, move back home. You know, I was back and forth throughout the year. But since I had a stroke 2018, and that was one of the reasons I moved back home.
So home was with the defendant and your mom, Ms. Pearlie Goodman.
Yes, sir.
And going back to the night of the altercation, were you afraid
Yeah, I really was afraid.
for your life?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because anybody standing in front of you, you know, with a machete, you know, they should be fearful for their life. You know, I ain't no telling what he might do, you know.
Do you fear for the life of your wife, who was also on the couch with you?
Yes, sir.
What about your mom?
My mom also, because she had jumped between us when he was standing over me with the machete. You know, I was sitting on the couch and they had a coffee table right there, and he was on the other side of the coffee table. You know, so he was pointing the machete at me like, y'all gonna get out of my house. And by that time, my old lady, she had jumped up and got between us. And y'all get out of my house. And then my mom come and she jumped between us. She still pointing the machete.
What did you tell the officers when they arrived?
The same thing I'm telling you.
And so after all of this is going on, I would imagine there's a lot of commotion, confusion, emotions. How did you call the police immediately after, or when in that whole?
Probably 2 to 3 minutes after it happened. But no more than 5 minutes after it happened.
Tell me why you decided to file charges against the defendant.
Well, for one, I was scared, you know what I'm saying? He pulled a machete out on me. Ain't no telling what he'll do next, you know? And based on him and mom's relationship, you know what I'm saying? You know, so really, I was scared, you know? Like I said, I don't know what he might do next, you know? Come home, you know, because I still have a hard time walking like a far distance and standing up, so I be sleep a lot. Ain't no telling, he might come in and cut me or shoot me. I don't know. So I want him from around.
And that's completely understandable. But what gave you the courage to come here today? Even with all of these things that that happened? What gave you, you know, you just said that you were scared of the defendant, but you're still here and you're testifying.
Yes.
What gave you the courage?
Well, because it happened well, he hasn't been back since that night, you know. But, the incident happened, you know, and I really don't think it should have happened, you know. And, you know, called to testify, so here I am.
And I want to talk about you for a little bit. Do you have a criminal history?
Yes, sir.
And what does that include?
Drugs.
Drug offenses?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any offense involving the defendant in any way whatsoever?
No, sir.
Any offense that would be relevant to what happened on October 12th?
No, sir.
You didn't get arrested that night
No.
or anything wrong? Okay, Mr. Moore, thank you. That's good.
Okay, Mr. Grove?
Mr. Morris, my name is David Grove, and I represent Charles and Goodman. All right, we don't know each other, do we?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, you told us your name was Charles Morris. Is it Charles Morris Jr. or anything like that? And what's your date of birth, please, sir?
10/29/71.
Okay. So, you would be about 50 years old, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that you were unemployed, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You also said that your mother and Mr. Goodman had been married for about 20 years.
Yes, sir.
During that 20 years, had you lived with your mom and Mr. Goodman most of the time?
No, off and on.
Okay, but was that more time that you were with them than you were not with them, or?
No, I was away more than I was.
Okay. All right, and you mentioned a girl that you were with, and I believe the prosecutor called her your wife. And I think you called her your old lady once. Are you married to her?
No, sir. We've been
Okay.
together 4 years.
Girlfriend, in other
Yeah,
words.
we've
Would
been-
that be, all right. And had she been living there with you and Mr. Goodman and your mom?
No, at the time she wasn't.
Okay. Now, you said this was around 2 o'clock in the morning. Do you know where Mr. Goodman had been before he came home?
Apparently it looked like from drinking.
Okay. Now, if I understand it, and you correct me because I wasn't there and I don't know what the house looks like or anything like that. Were there 2 bedrooms in the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your mother was in 1 bedroom, right?
Yes, sir.
And then Mr. Goodman was in the other bedroom.
Sir.
And you and your girlfriend were on the couch, I
Yes,
guess.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when Mr. Goodman got home from wherever he was, where did he go in? Did he go in a back door, a front door?
Front door.
Okay, was it close to where his bedroom was?
No, sir.
Okay, so he went in the front door. Is there a bedroom? Well, is there a back door or a side door by his bedroom?
Yes, sir.
And he didn't go in that door.
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know, does Mr. Goodman have any relatives that stay around here? Like brother?
Yeah, he got a brother. I probably met him one time.
Yeah, well, have you heard that his brothers have medical problems, cancer or something like that? Have you heard that?
I heard that he was sick at one time, but I never did try to investigate, see what was going on.
Okay, and I'm not asking that, but you had heard that he was sick and having some medical problems, is that right? Okay. Now, had you heard that, Mr. Goodman had been staying with his brother for the time, right before this thing happened out there at his house?
What, before he lived with the machete,
Yes,
he was staying with his brother?
that he was staying with his brother during the day, son.
Well, I don't know where he go at during the day, but at night, I know he came home every night.
But you hadn't heard that he was staying during the day with his sickly brother? Okay. Now, Mr. Goodman, he has had some problems, hasn't he?
As in what?
Well, as in he is, I noticed that when the police put down his employment, they put disabled down on his, when they arrested him out there on this night. And that disability, was that because he's had some physical problems?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I mean, I'm like that too. Somebody looked at me, they'd say he's probably disabled.
Yeah.
But Mr. Goodman did not have a job where he would go and work because of his disability. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, he didn't have a job, but he would put grass in.
Okay, he would kind of pitch in to do what he could to make some cash.
Yeah.
When he could. Okay. All right. And this house that we're talking about, before you moved in, that house was the house where your mother and Mr. Goodman lived.
Exactly.
And in fact, they owned that house, didn't they? And you told us earlier that since this incident took place, Mr. Goodman hadn't lived back over there or spent the night over there at the house. And your common sense would tell you that's probably because that's what the police said. You don't come back around the house there. And he hadn't come back around, has he? So when he got arrested that night, basically he lost the place where he was living, didn't he? Well, I mean, you hadn't seen him around there, had you? Okay.
Well, yeah.
And you and Mr. Goodman had disagreements before this, hadn't you?
Throughout the years.
Okay, throughout the years, though, I think you told the prosecutor that you had some or didn't get along with him all the time or something like that when he was asking questions.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much been that way for years. It isn't something that just happened right before this incident. Okay. And I can see you're shaking your head no. So I just wanted to make sure that I understand your answer.
Yes, sir.
Because sometimes if we don't hear each other, I don't know what you're saying. Now, you wanted to get him out of the house, didn't you?
Well, I didn't want him out the house, I would like for him to get out the house because the relationship him and my mother had, but, other than that, if he was taking care of my mother like he's supposed to have been, I wouldn't have no problem with it, you know?
But you wanted to get him out of the house because you and him disagreed just about stuff. Not that you argued or fought all the time, I'm not saying that, but you disagreed with him about a lot of stuff.
Well, not really disagree with him, but the things that he would do when he would come in the house, you know, I would disagree with.
Okay. Are you still staying there in the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so since this took place, and we're talking about something that took place back in October 2019. So we're not talking about last year. We're talking about, in essence, 4 years, let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22, 3 years ago, almost. And that's a pretty long time for him to have to stay out of his house, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you still staying there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is your girlfriend staying there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was the reason you wanted to get him out of the house, wasn't it?
That's not the reason I wanted him to get out the house.
Okay. All right. Now then, you mentioned that you have a hard time walking. Mr. Goodman has some problems walking, doesn't
Yes, sir.
he? And he walks with a cane.
Yes, sir.
I mean, so I'm not saying anything wrong with that because that's the way it is sometimes with us. And he was having problems back in 2019 when this took place, didn't
Yes, sir.
he? Now then, on the night when this thing took place, you're saying that you were asleep and Mr. Goodman came in and woke you up, basically.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Through the front door.
And you told us what happened after that. Have you had any contact with him since this incident back in October of 2019?
No. First time seeing him.
Okay. Now, you told the jury earlier that you had been convicted of some criminal cases,
Yes, sir.
and they were all drug cases.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many drug cases do you have? How many felony drug cases do you have?
Probably about 5 or 6.
Okay, and 5 or 6. How many times you been to prison?
3 times.
When was the last time you went to prison?
I just got out like 32 days, 33 days ago.
Okay. Let me see if I understand. You're saying that you got out of the Texas prison 32 days ago.
The 26th, August 26th.
August 26th, okay. And that was like almost 3 years after this incident took place. How many times have you been to prison in the last 3 years?
No, I haven't been in prison since I got out in 2013. I ain't been back since this last incident.
All right, well, we can do this a couple of different ways. Would you admit that you have more than 11 felony drug convictions out of this county?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And those cover a time period from back in 2000 or the early 2000s up until 2022, right? Okay. And they have been for different periods of time. What's the longest time you've ever been in prison?
When I got out in 2013, I had stayed like 4 years and 9 months.
But some of your sentences have been for longer periods of time. You just hadn't had to serve it all. Is that right?
No, I haven't.
Have you been sentenced to more than 4 years in prison?
Yes, I think the longest they gave me was 7 years.
Okay. But you received some 5-year sentences.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, now, on these drug possession cases, or were they all drug possession cases? Some of them were delivery of drugs, weren't they? And a lot of those occurred where you were living, didn't they?
When I was what?
Where you were living, in your house.
No, I wasn't. Well, a couple of them have.
A couple of them occurred where you were living.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where did the rest of them take place?
Out on the street. Well, all of them took place out on the street. I never got arrested from my house.
Okay, you never got arrested in your house. You just used this for the past 30 years to support yourself. Is that right? These felony drug cases.
Yes, sir.
And because of your prior number of drug case convictions or felony convictions, if you commit any felony, whether it's a drug case or not, because of your many priors, you would be what's considered a habitual offender.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is the minimum sentence that you would be looking at as a habitual offender if you were charged with a third-degree felony?
I'm not sure.
It'd be a minimum of 25 years in prison next time, wouldn't it? And that has a lot to do with what happened out there that night, doesn't it?
No, it has nothing to do with what happened.
Okay, it has nothing to do with it. Okay, I understand that.
You know, objecting to this line of questioning, I'm not seeing what the relevance is. I don't think Mr. Grove has kind of tied it in. We just asked him, does that have anything to do with?
Mr. Grove?
Judge, I don't want to spend any more time on this, so this may be a moot point. But certainly it has to do with, he said in one of the questions that Mr. Marr asked him, he said, I didn't have, the cases I was convicted of didn't have anything to do with what happened out there on that night. And I submit that they do. However, I will move on because I think,
Okay.
I mean, I could go on further, but I don't think that would be
Okay.
necessary.
Objection sustained. You can move on.
Okay, thank you, Judge. But now you've got a place to stay because you've been able to get the owner of the house, Mr. Goodman, out where you can't come back.
No, as long as my mom, she's gonna, like I said, I didn't have a stroke. And that was the main reason for me moving back home, because I had a stroke. And as long as my mom got birth in the body, I know she's gonna, you know, give me somewhere to stay if I need somewhere to stay. I'm not gonna sleep on the street.
No place somebody could store drugs.
No,
They couldn't.
no.
I think I've spent enough time on that, so I will not follow up. I pass the witness show.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Morris, I just, think council said a lot there. I just want to first start with these drug convictions. What's the date of the offense of your last conviction? When did it happen?
But that I went to prison.
Yeah, did you say you got out of prison?
Yes, sir. I went to prison August 6th, 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 20.
And do you know whether your mom owns the home or whether Mr. Goodman owns the
My
home?
mom owns the home.
She's the only owner, the only,
I don't know if she got his name on it, but my mom owns the house herself.
okay, so the way you understand it, your mom owns it, that's your mom's house.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Goodman was living with you and your mom? Like,
Yes, sir.
mom. Also, I want to apologize. I was calling your girlfriend, your wife. I had it in
Yeah,
my
we've
notes.
been together 4 years, so that's really like my common law wife.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna just refer to her as your girlfriend now. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you know where Mr. Goodman was, coming from the night of the, October 12th, 2019?
No, I don't know exactly where he was coming from, but they have a little club like 3 blocks away from the house where I would see him all the time, you know, parked up there drinking, you know, just, I guess, with his friends or whatever by himself. But I don't know where he was coming from that night. I was at home.
And do you know this club that you're referring to, do you know how he would get there
In his truck.
in his truck? And how often do you think he would return home from that club?
I would say he would go like every other weekend or sometime every week, you know, but that's, I know probably once a week, probably.
And would, to your knowledge, would he always drink?
Yes, when he go around the club, I would say yes.
And you said that you have a, what did you say was wrong with your leg? I'm so sorry.
I had a stroke in 2018 and, I got a lot of health conditions, man. What's going on with me, you know, so.
Sure. Sure, and you don't have to, go any further, that's fine. But on the night of this incident, did you still have, an abnormal walk, from the stroke?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, I didn't catch, what did you say you believe Mr. Goodman's, disability to be?
I'm not sure. I heard years ago that he had surgery on his back. But like I say, our relationship was so bad, I never did get to try to find out what was going on with him, what, you know,
And because y'all didn't have the best relationship.
exactly.
So you wouldn't be too quick to, call him your stepfather.
No, not too quick.
But do you know that whether someone is family or not is a legal question and not necessarily how you feel?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And did Mr. Goodman know about your stroke?
I'm pretty sure my mom probably mentioned it to him while I was in the hospital. She probably mentioned it.
And just to clarify, there's never been any raid of your house to get drugs or something, or your mom's house to get drugs or something like that, or you've never been arrested at your home? And was it, did Mr. Goodman mention anything about drugs or anything about, I don't know, your criminal past or your criminal history on October 12th, 2019, like the night of this incident with that? And was that the first time you saw him that night, that day? Well, like, what time did this occur?
This happened, the incident happened like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, October 12th.
So I've probably seen him go out that morning, but
The morning of October the 11th. That's what you mean?
yes, sir.
Okay. But you didn't have any communication or contact with him like October the 11th?
No,
Okay. Did you have any idea why he came in with a machete?
no, sir.
Had this happened before?
No, sir. Not with the machete, no.
And then after, that was his last time at the house, at your mom's home?
Yes, sir. I told her because, like I said, in August, I went to prison. I went to prison in August.
So as far as you know, that was his last time?
Yeah, as far as I know.
And do you know if that was because of the incident, because of what happened, because of him having a machete?
Well, also with the restraining order my mother had put on.
Mr. Rowe?
Mr. Morris, I apologize to you if I made any implications that you were about being disabled or anything like that. The point I was trying to make was that both you and Carlton Goodman both have medical problems or physical problems getting around. Not just you, but he has them too, okay? So I apologize. I didn't mean to say that if I did. Okay, now, the house where this took place, that was the house where Mr. Goodman and his wife, your mother, had lived for 20 years. Is that right?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. And although you don't know whose name is on the title, it's probably in both their names because they both live there.
I'm not sure.
Okay, you're not sure, but that would make sense since they both live there and, you know. But to your knowledge, he hadn't been back there since this night back in 2019. Is that right? Okay. Now then, you seem to imply that Mr. Goodman was drunk that night when he came home.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now then, you called the police after, did he go to his room? Is that what happened, his bedroom?
Yes, sir.
And then you called the police.
Yes, sir.
And then the police came
Yes, sir.
and they were around him for a while and they ended up arresting him.
Yes, sir.
I've looked over the police reports and there's not any indication that any of the police said that he appeared to be intoxicated or high or anything like that. Would that surprise you?
Well, from my knowledge, from what I've seen, I thought he was drunk. He might have been drunk, you know, because on Fridays and Saturday nights when you go to the club, he come on drunk. You know, when you walk in the house, leave the front door wide open, go to the kitchen, leave the icebox door wide open, cook him some food to click on the stove, he leave click, 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 you know, so when he does that type of stuff, you know.
I'd object to the responses being unresponsive to the question.
Okay, Mr. Morris, just please answer the question. Objection sustained.
And I'd ask the jury be instructed to not, or I guess, remove that response to the question that I asked.
But the court will instruct the jury to disregard the response to the question.
Okay, thank you. But you'd expect the police to report if he had a strong odor of alcohol or if he appeared to be inebriated, or if he appeared to be under something, maybe it wasn't alcohol, could have been drugs. But if that's not in the police report, you wouldn't have expected them to have seen that, would you?
No, but like, I wasn't close enough to him to smell alcohol, but I assumed that he was up under the influence of alcohol.
Sure. And if they didn't arrest him for being intoxicated, that would indicate that they probably didn't think he was intoxicated.
I wasn't.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay. He doesn't know what the police report. He doesn't know the contents of the police report or what they said or what they thought at the time of making the police report, and defense counsel asked him to speculate about what the police thought or the report.
So what is your objection?
Speculation. Your Honor.
Okay, objection sustained.
And I'll be happy to give you the report to look at if that's necessary. Now then, you said this was the first time that you remember Mr. Goodman with machete threatening you. Is that correct?
Yes, first time with machete.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Johnson?
Couple more questions, Your Honor. Mr. Moore, can you explain why you thought Mr. Goodman was drunk, intoxicated, the night of the incident?
Well, because every Friday and Saturday night, when he do go out and come back at that hour of the night, he be drunk. So I assumed that he was drunk.
What hour of the night?
On the weekends, he'll come in 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, do you know what time he came in? You know what time you told the police he came in on October 12th,
That was like 2, same time, about 2, 3. I'm not sure what time it was, but I know it was after 2 o'clock.
If you made a statement, you wrote a witness statement in connection with this matter, right? Would that statement help you refresh your memory as to what time you thought it was when Mr. Goodman came in, or what time you told the police it was?
If I hear a statement, I can probably remember.
Your Honor, statement was to admit as Exhibit 1.
Judge, I don't mind Mr. Johnson using the statement to refresh Mr. Morris's memory, and I think that's what he wants to do. I'm not sure I'm agreeable at this time to have the whole statement put into evidence, although I'm not trying to restrict what you want to do. It was my understanding you just wanted to let him look at it, so it might refresh his memory.
Your Honor, this is a witness statement that he prepared after filing charges detailing what he believed happened that night, the time it happened, the place it happened.
So now you had first offered it into evidence. He's objected, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Well, I'll withdraw my objection. If you want to offer it into evidence, that's fine. I'll withdraw that objection, Judge.
So you could offer into evidence as
Might need an exhibit. State's exhibit number 1, there's no objections, is that correct, Mr. Grove?
That's correct. Your
Okay,
Honor.
state's exhibit number 1 is admitted.
thank you. You see where you what time did you report Mr. Goodman coming home that night? I think it's towards the top. Maybe. Toward the top.
Yes, sir, I'm looking at my glasses. Oh, it was 1:30 to 1:45.
And would that time be consistent with what time with when Mr. Goodman would normally come home from the club?
Yes, sometimes be a little bit after 2, sometimes be earlier than that, you know.
And from your knowledge, do they sell or serve alcoholic drinks at this club?
Yes, sir.
And do you know if Mr. Goodman went to this club before, you said you heard he had a back surgery or had back surgery, in defense counsel was just mentioning that both of you had disabilities. You know if he went to this club before his back surgery? Or before you heard he had back surgery?
During his surgery, I wasn't staying at my mom's house, so
Okay.
I don't know if he was going to the club or not.
Okay, but this day, October 12th, 2019, is after you heard he had back surgery, right? Well, October, according to you, he had back surgery prior to October 12th, right?
Yeah, way before the year.
Okay. You said years ago?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Did you notice anything about the way he walked differently?
Yes, sir. After the surgery, I seen that he walked way worse than what he was walking.
Uh-huh. And what about you after your stroke? Did your abilities or the way you walk, did it change?
Yes, sir.
It worsened?
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Mr. Grove? Mr. Morris, you can put that statement on there. Yes.
Well, Mr. Morris, go ahead and look at that statement that the prosecution introduced in state number 1, okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, that's the statement that you gave to the Beaumont Police about what happened out there on the night in question. And when I say the night in question, that's the time when Mr. Goodman got arrested, right? Okay. And you've been going over quite a bit of stuff about how he appeared to be drunk and when he came home, and that's pretty much the way that he always was on Friday nights, right?
Yes, sir.
Read over that statement and you show me one place in there where it says anything about him drinking, smelling of alcohol, having problems walking. There's nothing in that statement about alcohol, is there? Go ahead and read it. I'm not telling.
Already, you know, it's just stating what happened, what he did when he entered the house. What he did before he entered the house, I don't know.
Yeah. But if it was a big point and you thought that he was drunk, you would have mentioned that to the police and they would have put it in their reports, wouldn't they?
They asked me what happened and I told them what happened.
And excuse me, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish your
They
answer.
didn't ask me if he was drunk or not.
No, they didn't ask if he was drunk because he wasn't. And if there was any indication that he was, you would have put that in there, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
One follow-up.
Okay.
question.
Mr. Johnson, you may proceed.
More, when you were giving your statement to the police, what mattered to you? What Mr. Goodman was thinking, or that he just threatened you with a machete?
Threatening with the machete.
Nothing further comments.
Okay, Mr. Grove, is there?
No questions, John.
Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes.
I have no objection, John.
We asked for the rule being voted.
Okay. Mr. Morris, the rule has been invoked, and what that basically means that as a witness, since the rule has been invoked, you are ordered to leave the courtroom and not re-enter unless instructed to do so by the bailiff or myself. You are not to discuss this case or your testimony with other witnesses or anyone else except the attorneys. You are not to read any report or comment on a testimony of evidence. In this case, any witness violating this instruction is subject to being held in contempt of court. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Mr. Morris, you may step down and exit the courtroom.
I take this.
No, that's an evidence. And you have a blessed day.
Oh, yeah.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the court is going to take a 10-minute recess. You're gonna follow the bailiff and you can have a seat in the hallway. If you need to use the restrooms, you can. If you need a coffee or water, we'll be happy to provide that to you. Follow the bailiff. Everyone, please rise. You may be seated. We're now in recess. Sure. Everyone, you can be seated. Let the record reflect that the court is back in session and cause number 324-644, the case is filed the state of Texas versus Colton Ray Goodman. Colton Ray Goodman is present in the courtroom with his attorney, Attorney David Groves. The state is present with Attorney Lamar Johnson and Attorney Ray Shearer. And let the record also reflect that the jury is also present in the courtroom. Mr. Johnson, are you ready to proceed?
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Mr. Groves, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, you can call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Emily Smith.
Emily Smith. Ms. Smith, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Smith, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Ms. Smith, you may put your hand down. Ms. Smith, you can take a seat in the witness stand. You can adjust the chair and the microphone. Mr. Johnson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Ms. Smith, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Well, I know we just met, and went through this, but can you introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Emily Smith. I'm a fifth and sixth grade special education teacher.
Where you from?
I'm from here in Beaumont.
You're from Beaumont. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch, when you say you worked,
In Pasadena.
and you say you
I'm a
were.
special education teacher.
Tell me about your education.
Went to school here, born and raised, went to school here, went to Central, graduated class of 1993. Graduated Lamar, 2014. Moved to Houston and are currently, teaching Pasadena ISD.
And, you have any children?
Yes, I do. I have a daughter. She's 18.
Who's watching them today?
My daughter.
Yeah.
She's at school.
Thank you for getting off of work and coming in here to speak with us in this jury. So I want to go to the date of this incident, October 12, 2019. What happened?
I ended up, I'm dating, Charles Morris. I ended up spending the night. We were asleep. We were watching movies and, fell asleep and,
I'm sorry to cut you off. You say y'all were watching movies. Where were y'all watching movies?
in the living room on the sofa.
Living room of where?
Of their house at, on Cleveland,
Do you know the address?
3990 Cleveland.
And that's in Jefferson County?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Please finish.
Okay, so we were, watching TV and I ended up, staying over because I had fell asleep. And I really couldn't say what, what time it was until like, not at that moment, but later. He was on one end of the sofa and I was on the other end, and he moved and kind of like jumped up. And, you know, when you feel somebody move, you know, you move too. And I was like, what's wrong? And he was like, I don't know, just to see what he's about to do. And I'm like, who is he? So then I looked up and Mr. Goodman was standing in the doorway with something on the side of his shoulder. And when Charles flipped the lamp on, he rushed towards him with the machete. And that
who is, excuse me, who is he?
Mr. Goodman,
Rushed towards,
Charles.
and, Mr. Goodman, do you recognize him in the courtroom today? Would you point him out and identify a article of clothing? Please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Who? I don't, she's pointed, who did she?
I'm sorry, Mr. Goodman with the black mask on his face.
Oh, okay, let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
And so you said he was on the other end of the couch. That was Charles was on the
Charles
other
was
end.
on the other end of the sofa.
Okay, so you're on one end of the sofa,
Mhm.
Charles on the other end, y'all
Right.
watching TV,
Oh, we sleep.
watching a movie before, and then y'all fell asleep.
Yes.
Okay, and what happened after that?
Like I said, that, you know, Charles moved and, you know, got up, so that made me move also, because we were kind of like intertwined. He was on one end and I was on the other end. And when he moved, I kind of like sat up to him and asked him what was wrong. And he was saying, I don't know, I'm just to see what his problem is, Mr. Goodman. And so when he flipped the light on, that's when he was standing in the door. Mr. Goodman was standing in the doorway with the machete, and he rushed towards Charles, and I jumped up off the sofa in the middle of them two, and he was pointing waving the machete, saying, "Get out of my house," and doing it back and forth like that. And then I screamed for Miss Curly, Charles' mom, to come and get her husband.
Okay, and how far would you say the sofa was from the front door? I'm trying to get a visual of the home.
Probably. It wasn't far. I can't really say how many feet.
Okay, and does he have to like walk down the hallway to get to the
No,
sofa?
it's like when you first walk in to the door, it's a living room.
Mhm.
And so when you walk in, there's a recliner right here, and the sofa is like sitting like where I am, and so maybe 2 steps,
Okay,
2 or 3 steps.
is it facing the door, or the sofa facing?
It's like against a wall.
Okay.
So you can see,
Who's coming in the door?
yeah, you can see who's coming through the door.
Okay, and you said that you saw Mr. Goodman standing there.
And at the door, once I sat up, because the way the sofa is, Charles was laying this way, I was laying this way, kind of like his foot was behind me, my foot was in front of him. So when I sat up, it would make my back turn, so I would have to actually sit up to see
Got you. And what did you see?
him standing in the doorway with the machete, and he just started like wobbling forward, waving the machete, saying, "Get out of my house," and that's when I jumped up and got in between the two of them.
Okay. What made you, why was that your reaction?
I don't know, it was just, it was just a natural, you know, reaction. I didn't want him to try to hurt Charles. So, and then I just went for Miss Curly to come and get her husband.
Sure. And I'm guessing you thought that he would hurt Charles. Is that the reason why you jumped in front of him?
Yes.
So what is your relationship with Mr. Goodman?
I'm not related to him at all.
Okay, so he would just, when you visited Charles, he would be there.
Sometimes he wouldn't be there. He would come later. He would park his truck at the edge of the driveway. Sometimes he wouldn't come through the front door. He would always go through the back door
You know,
to his room.
okay, you know why he would go through the back door?
Oh, I don't know why.
You know why he chose to come through the front door this time?
I have no earthly idea, because that was very odd for him to come through the front door. He never, the time that I've been dating him, he never came through through the front door.
Okay, and had you seen Mr. Goodman with a machete before?
No, I haven't.
And so obviously you hadn't seen him threaten anyone with a machete
No,
before? Okay, so this was the first time you saw him come through the front door
that was the first time.
and the first time you saw him with a machete?
Yes.
Did Mr. Goodman and Charles get along?
As far as I know, no.
Do you know why?
I really don't know why. I would hear stories, but I don't want to, speculate or whatever. Like, I'm new into the family at the time,
Mhm.
so I don't know.
You don't want to come in a family calling any type of.
Right.
And this was a family, the way you understood it.
Yes.
To be. Were you afraid?
Yes. It's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and, somebody's waving, a big knife in front of your face. So, yeah, I was kind of afraid, I was nervous and, shaking up.
And was he saying anything? Mr. Goodman, was Mr. Goodman saying anything?
The only thing he said, he was telling Charles to get out of his house. And when I screamed for Miss Curley to come and get her husband, she came in and she kind of got like in between two. And she was like, if you're gonna hurt my son, you have to hurt me too.
Do you remember Mr. Goodman saying anything else?
Not that I can recall.
Had you seen Mr. Goodman after October 12th, 2019?
No, not since the police laid him out the house.
And so what happened when the police got there?
When the police got there, I saw the flashing lights. Well, I saw the flashlights like shining through the window. When I opened the front door, one was coming from the side of the house and one was coming from off the street. And she asked me, did we call? And I was saying yes. And I proceeded to tell her what went on. She made us come outside of the house and stand on the porch, which myself, Miss Curley, and Charles to stand on the porch while they go in and try to apprehend him. They started calling his name to come out of the room. He never answered, never came out. And then the next thing you know, I heard I'm standing on the porch. I can see and hear the door boom. And they kicked the door in. I could hear things falling. They arrested him and brought him out with the machete. And once he walked past Miss Curley, he was like, I'm getting a divorce from you or something like that.
While he was walking out?
Mhm.
Do you know why he said that or what that was about? Was Mr. Goodman intoxicated? Were there any signs that Mr. Goodman was intoxicated? Do you feel like there were any signs that Mr. Goodman was
I
intoxicated?
probably was, because I didn't see no reason for him to be coming in with the machete to do whatever he planned on wanting to do, so.
Do you think it matters whether he was intoxicated or not? If he had the machete coming towards Charles, and he wanted to jump in front, do you think it mattered whether or not he was excuse me, whether or not he was drunk?
No, I didn't know.
Because you just don't want him to hit
Right,
Charles.
to hurt anybody, any of us, they didn't want him to hurt any of us in the house.
And you say you haven't spoken with Mr. Goodman since.
No. I've never really spoken with him.
Okay.
Anytime he would come, in the house, I would like, hello, how you doing? He never would say a word, so just,
Did you do something to him?
no.
Did y'all ever get into an argument?
No,
No falling out whatsoever?
no. I wasn't living there at the time, so.
So what gave you the courage to come here today and testify?
Because, I was just ready for this to, to be over with, so my mother-in-law can, live peacefully and, go about her life, and, they can try to, put their little house back in order, so, which it has been fine since he hasn't been there. I moved in with her in 2020. Her son had to, go away to prison, and I didn't want her to, be in fear of staying in the house by herself because she's elderly lady, so.
Are you afraid of Mr. Goodman?
Not really, because I don't ever have any confrontation or anything with him. I've never really like engaged with him until that night, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Grove?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Smith, I'm David Grove, and I represent Charlton Goodman, the accused in this case, okay? Now, if I heard correctly, and if I didn't incorrectly, this deal took place back in October of 2019, okay? And sometime after that, you moved into the house with Miss Purley, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, and that was when Charles Morris went to prison.
Right.
Okay, and so you're still living there today.
Correct.
All right, and basically you're in the bedroom that used to be Carlton Goodman's bedroom.
Correct.
Okay, so we've heard testimony from other witnesses that he hadn't been back over there to the house since, the night when this occurred. That would have been, almost 3 years ago. So basically you moved into his bedroom. Now, after Charles Morris got out of prison, does he stay over there with you?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's you, Charles, and then Miss Purley.
Right.
Okay. And to your knowledge, Mr. Goodman and Miss Purley are still married, aren't they?
As far as I know.
Okay. Now then, you said that this is the first time that you saw Mr. Goodman go in the front door. That usually he went in the back door. Okay. Did you see where Miss Purley's car was parked that day?
A car.
Or yes, well, truck or car, I don't know.
Her truck, when he was living there, she would park there's an empty field. And she would park her truck over in the empty lot that's next to their house.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not doing a very good job asking questions where anybody can understand what I'm trying to ask, I guess, but that night when Mr. Goodman came home, were the cars parked so that he couldn't get in that side door, the back door, to get into to his bedroom?
No, because usually if I would come there and if I would spend the night, I didn't want to be blocked in. We knew he would, because Ms. Curley, she would let us know, don't block the driveway, so we would park on the side of in the lot
Okay.
next to the house.
But he came in the front door, and as you can see in the courtroom today, he's wearing a black mask. A lot of people are still wearing masks because of the pandemic, and he was wearing one that night, wasn't he?
No,
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought your testimony was that he was wearing a mask.
no,
He wasn't wearing a mask.
no.
Okay. Charles and Mr. Goodman didn't get along with each other very well, did they, before this?
I guess not.
I mean, after this, obviously, I mean, they hadn't got along, but before this, they were not getting along well together, were they?
I guess not. Like I said, I was the new person coming in, so.
Okay, you hadn't been around the house that long back in
Right.
2019, although now it's been like 3 years, but back then you were sort of new to the family, I guess.
Since January of 19.
Jane, okay, yeah. Okay, now then. You said that when Mr. Goodman came home, that he appeared to be intoxicated. Is that right? Noticed strong smell of alcohol in his breath?
Well, I wasn't that close to the smelling, but you can tell by the staggering of the walking.
Okay, the way he walked. What else showed that he was intoxicated?
I guess.
Okay, he has trouble walking, doesn't he?
He does, but when he's intoxicated, he's walking a little bit even more, so.
All right. And you said that he was telling Charles to get out of his house, his being Mr. Goodman's house.
Yes.
Okay. And you gave a statement to the Beaumont police about what happened that night, didn't you?
Yes.
Remember telling them that Mr. Goodman, when he got home that night, appeared to be intoxicated?
No, I didn't tell him that. I just said he came through the door with a machete, so.
You didn't tell him that he was intoxicated because that didn't seem to matter, did it?
Well, at the time when you're trying to, everybody's in your face trying to ask you questions.
Well, you said you couldn't really smell it, but you figured the way he was walking, he must be intoxicated. Because he had a machete in his hand, is that?
That would be the only reason.
The fact, though, that you didn't, in the statement that you gave to the police, didn't say anything about him being intoxicated, did it?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. And that could be because at the time you didn't think he was intoxicated.
Well, at the time, I didn't think you'd be throwing machete, waking around in my face either.
Okay, well, I guess the fact that somebody it seemed to be important to you that somebody had a machete. And that seemed to be one of the things that people that aren't intoxicated wouldn't be coming along with machete, I guess. Is that correct? Well, you didn't smell any alcohol. Didn't really talk to Mr. Goodman or anything like that, did you?
No, other than,
But you didn't bother to tell the police that he was intoxicated. Right?
right.
Okay. Am I correct that since this incident occurred back in November of 2019. You have not seen Mr. Goodman come to that house.
No.
Back at that time, when you first, I won't say moved in, but first started spending time around there back in 1991 with Charles Morris at his parents' house.
Not in 1991.
Well, and I mean, that was about when it was back, I think you said in
2019.
2019. At that time, until this night, Mr. Goodman lived there at the house, didn't he?
From which time?
From the
2019.
time when you first started kind of hanging around with, I'm not sure about the right wordings on that. I'm not trying to imply anything. I'm just saying.
From 2019, January of 2019.
Okay, January 2019, this was in, I believe, in October 2019.
Correct.
He had lived there until,
Up until that night of October.
all right. And I probably misunderstood when Mr. Johnson was asking you a question. You said you had a daughter. How old is your daughter?
My daughter is 18.
That's what I thought. I thought you said 18, and he says, "Where is she?" And she says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I think he was thinking about a younger daughter, but that's fine, and that has nothing to do with anything about the trial." So I just misheard. Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness, Sharon.
Mr. Johnson.
My apologies, Ms. Smith. I thought you said your daughter was 8 years old.
No.
And I need to get around at 3:30, so I'm trying to remember back. Nieces, you weren't close enough to smell Mr. Goodman's breath. Is that because, let me back up. Could you not smell whether or not Mr. Goodman had alcohol on his breath, because there was a machete in between, you and him? Defense counsel asked, did you smell his breath? Did you smell alcohol on his breath? So I'm trying to see, were you close enough to, Mr. Goodman to smell his breath?
No, I wasn't close enough at all to smell his breath. And also there's a coffee table in between.
Okay. And can you explain this car parking situation?
Okay, so when I first got into the family, everybody had to put the cars on the side, or if he was there before anybody else, he would park at the very edge of the driveway, so no one else could get in. We would have to park on Hayes Lane, which Hayes Lane went directly into the house, which is Hayes Lane and Cleveland Avenue.
Okay.
So if he was there before anybody else did that, he would park at the very edge of the driveway and no one else could get in the driveway. Even if he parked at the end, we still couldn't get over until the empty lot that's on the next to the house. We would have to park on Hayes Lane.
And was it, did Charles park on Hayes Lane sometime?
Okay. Or in the field.
Okay. And was it a hard trip to make to the house? Is that why everybody wanted to park in the garage, in the driveway, because Hayes Lane?
Cleveland Avenue is a very busy street. I don't
Okay.
know if y'all familiar with the area, but Cleveland Avenue is a very busy street. People speed up and down the street. So,
You think it was busy? You think it's normally busy around 2 a.m. or 1:45, 2 a.m. in the morning?
no,
And did you know about Charles' stroke?
The stroke.
Yeah,
He had that previously before I met him.
right, but you knew he had one, and, and it affects the way he walked.
Yes.
What, did it prevent him, from walking, if he had to park on Hayes Lane, did that prevent him from walking?
He has, trouble walking, he has COPD, so he's like real short of breath.
Okay.
When he walks, so sometimes, yeah.
Okay. And how has Charles been since, how do you feel Charles has been since he last got out of prison?
That's okay.
Yeah. What about his, interaction with drugs? We heard testimony that, he's been convicted of drugs.
He hasn't, like, when I first met him in 2019, he told me the whole history of all of that, and, in 2017 was the last time he ever dealt with anything like that. When I met him, he told me he had a little case that was pending, so, that was my judgment call to still, date him, so,
And that charge was pending before you met him.
yeah.
And is that the charge, is that why he served his last prison
That's
stint? I want to go back to the scene that you said, where you jump up in front of Charles, because you see Mr. Goodman coming towards him from the front door with a machete. I'm sure there's, a lot of emotions, everything's a tense time. Can you remember anything that Mr. Goodman was saying outside of get out of my house?
That was the only thing that I can remember. And,
Was he screaming it?
yes.
What else do you remember about that night that maybe you have to share with us?
That's as far as I can remember.
And defense counsel asked you whether Pearlie Goodman and Mr. Goodman here are married, and you said they were. That's what I understand.
Yes, she received, divorce papers back in, I think it was, early May. And I went over the papers, and I think she said she brought them down to the courthouse, or she found them, whatever, but I think she hasn't gotten a final divorce yet.
Right. So you think that they're still technically or legally married?
That's as far as I know.
But do you know if they were separated after that night, after October 12th, 2019?
Yes, she had to get a restraining order. There was a temporary restraining order that she had got, and it was served to him while he was incarcerated. Mr. Goodman. For the incident that happened in October.
Okay, he was incarcerated for what happened in October,
Right.
and Pearlie Goodman got a restraining order, and they served him to when he was incarcerated.
Yeah.
So they may have been still technically married, but they were separated. You would say that they were separated from
Since that night.
since that night?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Grove?
Ms. Smith, you told us that, that Charles had some problems walking, due to his COPD and because he had a stroke and some things like that. What about Mr. Goodman? Mr. Goodman he walks with a cane, doesn't he? And he has some problems walking too.
As far as like, when I would always see him, I never saw him walking with a cane. To clarify the driveway situation, no one ever blocked the driveway. If someone did block the driveway, he would lay on the horn and they would go and move. When I would go there, I never parked in the driveway. I would always park either on the field or on Hayes Lane, because I knew how he would react about being in the driveway. And Ms. Pearlie, if somebody would park in the driveway, she would, let us know, don't park in the driveway, because he had to come home.
Anything else you want to volunteer?
No.
Look at the question I asked was, though, Mr. Goodman has some physical problems, doesn't he? I mean, I have physical problems. I'm not trying to say there's anything bad about that, but he has some physical problems and he had some trouble getting around, even back then, didn't he?
I mean, he drives, so I don't think he.
Could you tell when he walked? Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
No, I was saying, I mean, he drives, so I don't.
Okay, but he had some problems getting around. I think that there's been some testimony that somebody heard he had a back problem and some things like that, or back surgery rather. But he had some problems getting around, didn't he, back in 2019?
I'm not aware of it, I don't know.
Okay, now then, he didn't have a cane that he walked with at that time, but obviously he does now, right?
Yeah, from what I see.
Okay. And you told us that you didn't get close enough to Mr. Goodman that night to smell whether he had alcohol in his breath or not. But you did jump in front of Charles to protect him, didn't you?
Right.
And I think you said that his mother got between him and Mr. Goodman.
Correct, that's our father.
Okay. And we heard testimony that Charles Morris has been out of prison for about 30 days.
Correct.
All right. And he hadn't had any problems with drugs since then, right?
Not since 2017.
Okay. And was it your testimony that the trouble he got into, that he went to prison most recently for, was before he was dating you?
Correct.
Okay. At about the time he went to prison was when you moved into Mr. Goodman's bedroom, wasn't it?
A little after. We had to
A little after, okay.
hang out.
Thank you, I'll pass it with you.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Smith? You said that you didn't park in the driveway because of how Mr. Goodman may react. What do you mean by that?
He would blow the horn or get upset about people being in the driveway.
Okay. Do you think that's why he was upset that night? That someone was in the driveway?
No one was in the driveway. All of our cars were, my car was parked on, Hayes Lane. Charles' car was on in this field, and Miss Curry's car was in this field also.
Okay. So he comes into the house, so he's walking on the cane, so he got the cane in one hand and a machete in the other.
He didn't have a cane that night.
So you didn't have.
I've never seen him walk on a cane.
And did you decide to move in with Pearlie Goodman, when Charles went to prison? Or why did you decide to move in with Ms. Goodman?
I moved in with her because I didn't want her to be in fear of staying in the house by herself. I witnessed her every time that Mr. Goodman would, pull in the driveway. She would hear his music. She would, hear the truck pulling up. Her whole demeanor would change. So that's why I took it upon myself. I talked with Charles and I was like, I'd rather stay with your mom, just, to be on the safe side, to make sure she doesn't have any issues while he's away, while Charles is away.
And neither of you had any issues with Mr. Goodman while Charles was away?
No, we had the temporary restraining order. I'm not sure how long it was for, but we haven't had any problems.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rhodes?
Ms. Smith, I'm unsure. Has Mr. Goodman been back out there at the house since this incident took place in October 2019?
No, but I know that, no. There's not been at the house.
He hadn't been out there, but you say that Miss Pearlie was afraid of him whenever he'd drive in the driveway.
That was before,
Oh, that was 3 years ago.
yes. From when I started dating Charles from January up until the incident.
Okay. But that was one of the reasons why, or that was the reason, in fact, that you moved in with Miss Pearlie was, although Charles was gone to prison, you moved in there because you didn't want her to be afraid of Mr. Goodman.
Right, and then the night by herself.
Thank you. No further. Very short.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, you may proceed.
Ms. Smith, you started dating Charles and you said January 2019, and this happened in October 2019. So very good with math, so about 9 or 10 months. And within 9 or 10 months of dating Charles, this incident happened where Mr. Goodman walked through the front door threatening Charles with a machete. Is that one of the reasons, or a big reason why you felt that Pearlie didn't need to stay alone and would be afraid to stay alone?
That's correct.
Thank you.
No questions.
Ms. Rhodes? Okay. May this witness step down?
Yeah, no.
Okay, now, Ms. Ms. Smith, the rule has been invoked, and what that basically means as a witness, since the rule has been invoked, once you leave this courtroom, you cannot talk to anyone about this case. And you should not come back into the courtroom unless instructed otherwise by the court or by the bailiff at the court's direction. The only people that you can actually discuss this case with are the attorneys. Okay, now, if you violate the instructions that are given to you, you could be subject to being held in contempt of court. Do you understand? Okay. Now, you may exit the courtroom and you are excused, and you have a blessed day.
All right, thank you.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, the court is going to take a 10-minute recess. You can go out into the hallway if you need some water, restroom, or coffee. Just let the bailiff know. At this time, everyone, please stand. You follow the bailiff. Okay. Court will be in recess, 10 minutes. Do you have a charge?
No, because I wouldn't have,
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we may have to get with,
I wonder if Fred or Lamar,
yeah, we may have to get with, Kim.
yeah, further.
Yeah. We might need to get a copy, I'm gonna get a copy of the, she usually need a copy of the information. Okay, 324644. I'm trying to remember the number. Let's do this. Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is back in session. State, are you ready? Defense, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bailey, could you please go get the jury? Yeah, everyone, please stand. Got my man. You may be seated. Let the record reflect that the court is back in session at call number 324-644, case of Kyle, the state of Texas versus Carlton Ray Goodman. Let the record also reflect that Mr. Goodman is present in court with his attorney, Mr. David Rowe. And let the record also reflect that the state assistant district attorney, Attorney Lamar Johnson, is present. And let the record reflect that the jury is now present in the courtroom. State, are you ready?
State ready, Your Honor.
Defense, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson, you can call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Pearlie Goodman.
Ms. Goodman, would you please come forward? Ms. Goodman, would you please raise your right hand? Ms. Goodman, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may put your hand down. Ms. Goodman, you can have a seat in the witness stand, and you can adjust the seat and the mic. The seat moves. Mr. Johnson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. How you doing, Ms. Goodman? I know we just met, not too long ago. Would you mind introducing yourself to the jury? Would you mind introducing yourself to the jury?
My name is Pearlie Goodman.
Where do you work, Ms. Goodman?
I'm retired from Calderwood Nursing Home,
What do you do?
a nurse.
Can you tell me about your education?
I finished high school and went to Lamar.
Are you from Beaumont?
Yes,
What did you study at Lamar?
child development and, activity.
And where do you live?
3990 Collegian Street here in Beaumont.
And do you own the property?
Yes,
Are you the sole owner of the property, or do you own there's someone
Yes.
else? You're the sole owner?
yeah, well, yeah, I bought the house and we had the house rebuilt by Southeast Texas, and my husband wanted to put his name on the house. And they told him that he didn't have to because they was going to, who was the owner of the house.
Okay, so do you own, how long have you owned the home, sir?
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Just hold on a minute. Oh, you have some? Okay,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
have some tissue right there if you need some. You ready to proceed? Okay, Mr. John.
And how long have you owned the home?
About 22 years.
Who pays the bills?
I do.
How many children do you have, Ms. Goodman?
I have one living son and a deceased son.
And your living son is Charles?
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
And, are you married?
I guess me and my husband still married.
Are y'all separated?
Yeah, we separated.
When's the last time, y'all lived together?
2019. 2017 or something.
Would it be October 12th, 2019?
Yeah, that was the last.
So, on October 12th, 2019, were you involved in, altercation or disturbance?
Yes, I was asleep and it was 4 up in the morning and I heard somebody scream, so I got out the bed and ran to see what was going on. And so when I walked in there, and then my husband, he had a machete over my son, like, you know, he was gonna hurt him with the machete. And so I just stood in between them so he wouldn't do anything.
And I'm gonna back up just a little bit. Where did this happen?
At 3990 Cleveland Street at my house.
And that's in Jefferson County?
Yes,
And you said your husband, is that person in the courtroom?
yes, Carlton Goodman.
Could you point at him and identify an article of clothing he's wearing?
That's him over there with the mask on.
What color is the mask?
Black.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant to be Carlton. Good.
Okay, the record will so reflect.
Okay, Ms. Goodman, I want to go back to the, I guess, the morning of October 12th, 2019. What happened?
I really don't know. Like I said, I was asleep and I heard a scream and I got up and ran to go see what was going on. And so that's when I seen Carlton with the machete and was standing over my son.
Well, did you know what was going on?
No, I didn't know what was going on.
Were you afraid? Were you afraid?
Yes, I was afraid. I didn't know, you know, what he was gonna do. I didn't know if he was gonna hurt him or what. So that's why I got in between, because I didn't want, you know, him to hurt my son.
And you mean physically in between?
Yeah.
Were you saying anything to Mr. Goodman during this time? I know it's hectic and a lot of emotion, but were you saying anything?
He was just saying that he wanted Charles out of the house. And I was telling him that he wasn't going anywhere because he lives there, you know. He was living there before he did, you know.
And how long has how old is your son?
He's 50,
And how long has he been living with you?
practically all of his life off and on.
So even when Mr. Goodman came to the picture, Charles was already living with you.
Yeah,
And you said Charles and Mr. Goodman didn't get along?
no, they didn't.
Do you know why?
Well, he used to always tell me that he hated my son, you know, and I don't know why. But he would always say, I don't like him, and, you know.
And so had there been incidents in the past as far as Charles and Mr. Goodman disagreeing in the wee hours of the morning?
No, not really, maybe once or twice, you know, during the day or
Sure.
something like that, but never, you know, that time of morning.
And you don't know why this time was different, this morning, the morning of October 12th?
No,
different?
I really don't. It might have had something to do with, you know, Mr. Goodman being kind of, you know, intoxicated, you know, he was kind of full. But I really don't know.
And when you say full, you mean drunk?
Yeah,
Do you know where Mr. Goodman was coming from that morning or that
no,
late that night?
no, he was, you know, used to coming home anytime he get ready, you know, any time of the night.
And how long? I'm sorry, you may have already said this. How long were you married?
I think about 21, 22 years, something like that. I don't know exactly.
And you did say that Charles was already living with you when y'all got married, when you and Mr. Goodman got married.
Mhm.
Charles was already living with you, was still living with you when you and Mr.
Yeah,
Goodman got married.
because, we wasn't living at the address, you know,
Mhm.
living at another address.
So what was Mr. Goodman saying when all of this is going on? When you're in the middle of Mr. Goodman and Charles, and you're pressing him to not perform with a machete. What was he saying?
He was just saying that he wanted him out of there and he was gonna hurt him and he wanted everybody out of the house.
Your house.
Yeah,
And we've heard testimony that Mr. Goodman usually didn't come through the front door, that there was a back door or a side door that he would go through because it was closer to his bedroom.
yeah,
Is that true?
yes.
Okay. Do you know why he would come through the front door on this particular night, October 12th?
Well, every now and then he would come through the front door, you know, like maybe during the daytime when he can see good and when he's, you know, not full or anything, but he could could drive his truck up closer to the back door where it was closer to his room, so, you know, but I don't know exactly why he came through the front door that time, but he would come through the front door, like I say, when he's okay.
Okay, and I'm guessing, is it dark? Is it coming through the front door? Is that passage or pathway dark? You said that when he could see, well, is there something that coming through the front door at night would prevent him from being able to see?
Not really, not really. It just would depend on how full he was.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
if he was able to walk like from the front door all the way through the house to his room. Or if he felt, where he could just drive to the back door and get out the truck right there and it was closer to his room,
And we heard testimony that, Mr. Goodman has maybe some back issues or back ailment, that may have affected the way he walked. Is that true?
Yes,
So it would have been a shorter walk, if he had driven up to the back door, closer to his room, opposed to walking through the front door and have to go through the house. And we heard testimony that the way your home is set up, you walk through the front door, you will see, I guess, the back of the sofa of your couch faces the front door. So if I walk through your front door, I'm gonna be greeted by the back of your couch. Is that true?
they have like when you walk in the front door, they have a recliner chair, you see the back of the recliner chair. And then the love seat is like facing the front door, and then the sofa is, facing the wall.
Okay.
So he would have to, get to the, recliner chair when he come in the door.
Okay. And we also heard testimony that your son Charles and Emily Smith were asleep on the couch that morning when Mr. Goodman came in. They were sleeping one person's head on one side and another person's head on the other side of the couch. Do you know if that's true, or are you aware of that?
I'm not sure.
Sure.
Because, like I said, I was asleep, and when I did come in there, they both were standing up.
Okay. So did Mr. Goodman walk with a cane at that time?
Sometime he would have his cane.
Okay. In what situations would he have his cane?
I don't know, I guess when he would think about it, he would have it majority of the time, not all the time. Like when he's walking around up in the house and stuff, he didn't have the cane, and sometimes getting in and out of his truck, he didn't have it, So I guess it just depended on how he felt,
I guess I'm just trying to get a mental image of Mr. Goodman walking through the pathway through the house on this night or morning. With the machete, it's a longer distance. I would, if walking was an issue, I would imagine that he would have a cane for a longer walk, especially if he's carrying a machete, carrying something in the other hand, he can't just balance himself. But you don't know whether or not he had a cane that night.
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. And coming into your house from the front door, is it accurate to say that if I was to walk in your house through the front door, whoever was laying on the couch would have to rise up and look behind them to see who was coming in, or stand up and look behind them to see who's coming through the door?
They could, if you're on the couch, you can see the front door.
Okay. And if coming from Mr. Goodman's room, entering into the living room, if you were sitting on the couch, how would he enter to you? I'm sorry, that's a horrible question. Let me back up. If I'm sitting on the couch and Mr. Goodman walks through his room, walk from his room to the living room, will I see him when he comes into the living room? Will I immediately see him, or will I have to like turn? Or?
Yeah, you could see him.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna get back to the middle of it. Who called the police, during this whole thing?
I don't know if it was Emily or Charles, because once I was standing there and then I just said, call the police, you know.
And why did you want someone to call the police?
Because I thought he was going to hurt him, you know, with the machete. Just all kind of things was going through my mind and stuff, and then by him having the machete up in his hand and stuff, and he could have had fell on the machete and hurt himself, you know. I didn't know, you know, what was gonna happen, so I just said, call the police.
And did you know he had a machete, like owned a machete?
I have seen it in his truck before, like under the seat. And like when he would go fishing or something like that, you know, I've seen it.
But never bringing it into the house?
No.
What did you tell the officers when they arrived?
Pretty much the same, that, you know, he pulled a machete on my son and on Emily, and I went in and, you know, tried to intervene. And he was drunk. And so they asked where he was, and I told him he had went up in his room, and so they asked us to, could we go on the porch, you know, until they would get him out of the house. And it went back there and knocked on the door, and he wouldn't open the door, wouldn't answer. And so they just had to almost, you know, kick the door in to get him out.
And there's also been testimony that you have a restraining order, or that you filed after this incident, that you filed a restraining order on.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Because he went to jail that night, but I knew that eventually he was gonna get out. And I knew that he was gonna, you know, try to come back around there and try to hurt somebody, you know.
So you were afraid of Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
And is that why you decided to file charges against him?
Yes.
So what, you said Mr. Goodman was arrested then, he went to jail that night. Did he say anything to you, while the police was there and all of this is going on?
No.
And besides, he wants everyone out the house. Did Mr. Goodman say anything before? No, I want to rewind a little bit. Before the police got there, when he had the machete waving it, telling people to get out his house. Did he say anything else, or just demanding people to get out of the house?
It was mostly demanding, you know. And I told him that, you know, nobody wasn't going anywhere.
Would it surprise you that you told, well, first, did you write a witness statement or prepare a witness statement after this incident, kind of detailing what happened and what was going on?
I think I did that same night. I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you think it would be accurate if you told, if you put into your statement that Mr. Goodman said, "Don't go to sleep"?
Yeah, yes. I remember now.
And what do you think he meant by don't go to sleep?
Was just scared to go to sleep because didn't know if we would wake up. You know, because of the threat. And seeing the weapon, you know, ain't no way I was gonna go to sleep.
What gave you the courage to come in and testify today?
I was just tired of it just lingering, you know, and wanted to just go on with my life and stop worrying about running into him and, you know, and afraid, you know, don't know what he would do if, you know, he'd see me or whatever. I was just tired, you know, I wanna, you know.
And from her testimony that Ms. Smith is living with you now,
Yes,
and she started living with you after your son Charles went to prison.
yes, cause she seen how scared I was. And so she just moved in with me.
Were you was that like a common feeling just kind of being scared?
No, I was just scared of going to sleep and waking up with him over me, you know, trying to harm me. You know, I was just scared of him after this incident there because I wasn't sure what he would do next. And then I even was scared to run into him, you know, on the streets, or anything, you know. So it's been like that for, you know, some years now, and I hardly go anywhere no more, you know, but the church, and that's about it, and go run, pay bills or something, you know. I don't move around like I used to, you know, because I'm even scared to go anywhere. But I don't never, you know, I haven't ran into them, but, you know.
Do you feel safer when your son's there, Charles? And I'm sorry, just for the court reporter, you need like audible answers. I saw you shake your head. So I need a yes or no, just for the court reporter, so she can put it on the record. I saw you nod your head up and down. So I'll repeat the question. Do you feel safer at your home when Charles is there?
Yes, when him or Emily there, you know. Yes,
And your son has had testimony has come out that your son has had issues, has prior convictions, drug convictions. What's your relationship with your son today?
we real close.
Mhm.
We always have been close, you know.
Thank you, brother.
Mr. Grove?
Ms. Goodman, my name is David Grove, and I represent your husband, Mr. Goodman, okay? Now then, I understand that you were married to Charles Goodman, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and how long have you been married to him?
I think since 97 or something like that, you know, I really can't, you know. remember.
So that would have been over 20 years.
Yes,
And when you first married Mr. Goodman, were y'all living over there on Cleveland Street?
no,
How long was it before you moved over there on Cleveland Street?
I don't know, maybe that same year. No, before we moved on Cleveland Street, we was living somewhere else, you know.
Sure. But then you moved over on Cleveland Street sometime,
Yes,
okay? And it was your testimony that that was your house,
yes,
okay? And then sometime later, your house had some damage from a hurricane? Was that what the house was from? You had a FEMA come in and rebuild, didn't you?
it's, Southeast Texas was the one revealed. I can't recall any damage from the storm. It could have been, but I can't recall.
You don't recall FEMA or any other government agency coming and doing some repair work to your residence over there on Cleveland?
No, I can't remember.
Well, then why did they repair the residence over on Cleveland, the Southeast Texas group that you said?
They had this year program that was out, it didn't have to be anything wrong with the house, anything, just if you wanted them to. And so I had applied to this year through this program, you know, and so then they just choose to, redo, my house.
Okay. And after they rebuilt it, you had to keep insurance on the house and do some things like that, didn't you?
Yes,
All right, you also had to pay the taxes on the house and that kind of thing. Did Mr. Goodman ever contribute to the insurance that was paid on the house?
yes, he paid insurance on the house maybe about 5 or 6 times.
Did he ever pay any of the taxes on the house?
He paid taxes on the house a couple times, maybe about 3 or 4 times.
Okay. Now then, if I understand what you were saying, and I may not have, so you correct me if I didn't understand it right, okay? So what I'm asking for, because I may not understand it. I understood that it was easier for Mr. Goodman to get into the house by going in the back door that was close to his bedroom. You said he could get in there easier than if he went in the front door. Is that right?
He could drive his, well, if he, the way our driveway built, he can drive all the way up to the back of the house and come in that way, you know, and it'll save him steps. It'll be closer to his room, you know. But if he come in through the front door, and then he have to walk down the walkway, you know, and the porch and all of that to get up in the house, you know, from the front, and then he got to come through the living room, the kitchen, and, you know, all the other rooms.
So I guess I understood correctly that it would be easier for him to get in the house by going in the side door by his bedroom than it would be for him to walk in the front door and have to go all the way through the house. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. Now, on the night when you say this all happened, you said he came in the front door, which would be harder, wouldn't it?
yes,
And yet you said that he was drunk and that you wanted to tell the police that he was drunk that night.
well, I'm quite sure they could tell he was drunk the way he was acting.
Would it surprise you that nobody, not a single police officer ever put in his report that they thought that Mr. Goodman was drunk or intoxicated?
Nah, I have no idea.
Okay, that would surprise you. Well, what about the statement that you gave to the police? They had you write out a little statement, didn't they, on paper, and they
Yes,
asked you what happened. And you told them he was drunk, right?
yes, because he was.
And you put that in your statement.
Probably did. Yeah, I'm quite sure.
Your Honor, my approach to witness.
Yes, you may.
That's a stage one. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll get the right one on here because I have.
You can just leave it right.
It's good, and I'm going to show you what I have had marked for identification purposes as defendant's exhibit A. Can you read this without glasses?
Right.
And it's been represented to me that this is a copy of the statement that you gave to the Beaumont police on this night back in October 2019. Does that look like your statement that you gave?
Yes.
All right, now I'm going to ask you if you would read that to yourself. Don't read it out loud. We hadn't done that yet. And tell me if it says anywhere in there that you told the police that Mr. Goodman was either drunk or intoxicated that night when this incident allegedly occurred.
No, it's not written on the paper.
Okay. But you told them that, but they didn't put it in you didn't put it in your statement.
No.
And it wouldn't surprise you that none of the police put in their statements that they thought he was intoxicated or drunk or anything like that. That wouldn't surprise you.
Well, I knew he was drunk. If they didn't know, I knew he was drunk the way because I would see him every day and I knew how, when he's drunk and when he's not drunk. So if they felt like he wasn't drunk, that's them. But I felt like I didn't have to put it up in my statement.
Well, if none of them put it in their statement, then none of them thought he was drunk, did they?
Maybe they didn't, but I knew he was.
Okay, you knew he was,
Yes.
but you didn't bother to tell them and you didn't put it in your statement, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
If he wasn't drunk, and then they wouldn't have had to kick the door in for him to come out of the bedroom.
Well, you didn't see him kick the door in, did you?
No, I heard it.
You heard it, okay.
Yes.
Now then, Emily moved in with you when your son Charles went to prison the last time. Is that right?
Yes.
And you said the reason that she moved in was because you were scared
Yes,
of Mr. Goodman.
yes.
Has Mr. Goodman been back to that house since November,
No.
or excuse me, October,
No, he has.
October 2019?
No, he has not.
Okay, and you haven't seen him since then, unless you saw him up at the courthouse or something?
I done seen him passing, a couple of times, but, never up close,
Okay. But before Charles got out of prison, Emily had moved into Mr. Goodman's bedroom, hadn't she?
yes.
Okay. In other words, what happened that night back in October 2019 was a good way to get rid of Mr. Goodman and get him out of the house, wasn't it?
No,
And that's what happened, wasn't it? He hadn't been back to the house because he's afraid to, because you have a restraining order on him and the police told him not to come back,
yes,
right?
yes,
Now, you also told us that your son, Charles, is 50 years old and he's lived with you his whole life,
yeah,
right?
off and on.
And in fact, he was living with you before you got married to Mr. Goodman. I guess he was married to you all those times he was arrested on all those felony drug charges that he committed. And when he went to prison, he moved out of your house, I guess. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. But you feel safer with Charles in your house with you, don't you?
yes, he's my son.
Oh, he's your son. That's exactly right. And that's why you got Mr. Goodman out. No further questions, Your Honor.
Let me have a couple, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson, you may proceed.
Has Charles ever held a machete in your face?
Have Charles what?
Ever held a machete in your face?
No,
Could that be a reason why you may feel safer with him there than with Mr. Goodman?
yes, maybe.
And the defense counsel just asked a line of questions, kind of inquiring into why you hadn't seen Mr. Goodman since October 12th, 2019. Would that have something to do with the restraining order that you had on him?
Well, the restraining order was for, a length of time, and I'm quite sure had been up, but, he didn't come around or anything, so that was good.
And that was your reason of seeking the restraining order, right?
Yes,
Was so that he wouldn't be around?
yes, and I was afraid.
And defense counsel also asked whether this night, October 12, 2019, was somehow meant to kick Mr. Goodman out of the house and replace him with either Ms. Smith or Charles, his bedroom. But do you know why Mr. Goodman walked into the house with the machete?
No, I don't,
You didn't give him the machete, did you?
no.
And that was the reason that he is out of the house. That's the reason why you didn't want him to return to the home was because of what happened that night.
Yes,
And you were asleep when you heard Emily scream, and that's what woke you up to come in the living room?
yes,
So you obviously had no idea that that was going to happen.
no,
And as far as whether or not Mr. Goodman was drunk that night or not, why didn't you put it in your statement?
I don't know, I guess I was just, you know, so much was going on, and I guess I was confused and nerved up, and I don't know why I didn't put it up in my statement.
Could it be because it didn't necessarily matter whether or not he was drunk or not? What mattered was that there was a mistake?
That he had,
Objection, that's an improper question. It invades the province of the jury.
Your
Your
Honor,
Honor, counsel was asking Ms. Curley why she hadn't put his drinking in his statement, and she testified that she didn't remember why or why not, and that it was an immaterial fact to her statement. I'm only asking why she did not include any mention of alcohol or anything like that, and whether or not it had anything to do with what she was feeling that night. What Mr. Goodman is charged with has nothing to do with alcohol, Your Honor. And yeah.
okay, I won't overrule objection. You may go forward.
In your statement, you just testified that, in your statement, you did put, that Mr. Goodman said, don't go to sleep, and that you were afraid, that made you afraid. Were you afraid not to go to sleep because Mr. Goodman was drunk, or were you afraid not to go to sleep, because of, what had just happened that night?
yes, you know, he had, well, I call that a weapon, you know, and he had never did that before, you know, he never pulled a weapon, a knife or anything, you know, and it frightened me. And I actually was scared and been scared. Look, you know, they did something to me, and I'm still scared today.
Right, and let me make sure I got, so Mr. Goodman had been drunk before,
Yes,
and you weren't necessarily scared.
no, because he never pulled a weapon on me, you know.
Sure, right, so the first time you pulled, a weapon, a machete, that's what scared you.
Yes,
Okay. And, I'm sorry, the property on Cleveland, you said you lived there for, 20 plus years?
yes,
And Mr. Goodman had paid insurance 4 or 5 times,
yes,
or, no, not a number, but a few times.
yes. He then, you know, had stopped paying bills, you know, after, he seen that Charles had came back home, and then he, you know, stopped paying bills and stuff, so.
Did he have an issue with Charles? What was your position on Charles staying at the house? Or what did you tell Mr. Goodman about Charles, whenever this issue came up, about Charles staying at the house, although Mr. Goodman didn't like it?
I would tell him that if he didn't have nowhere to go, he was welcome to stay there because I was the one that was taking care of the house, paying all of the bills, and everything. And so I would tell him that every time, he would try to, put Charles out, try to put me out, and I would ask, how could you do that? And I'm the one that's paying for everything.
Thank you.
Mr. Grove?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Grove?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. Goodman, the rule has been invoked, and what that means is that as a witness in this case, you are not to re-enter the courtroom unless the court or the bailiff under the court's instruction asks you to re-enter. And then you cannot discuss this case with anyone else. You can talk to the lawyers about the case, and you cannot read any reports or newspaper articles or anything that's pertained to this case. Okay, if you fail to obey this rule, you can be held in contempt of court. All right, so you're excused. You can step down and you have a blessed day.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, it's 5 minutes to 5. The court will be in recess. We'll reconvene on tomorrow at 1:30. At that time, we will continue with the trial. At this time, you can call the bailiff and make sure that you have your badges on when you come back to court. Okay, everyone, please stand. Okay, you may exit. At this time, the court will be in recess till 1:30 on tomorrow.